Hey there, seventh graders, it's me, Mr. Higgins. This is the third time I'm recording this lesson because there's something wrong with my computer, so hopefully it works this time. Fingers crossed. I'm not in a bad mood though, and I'm not freaking out about it, obviously, because you can tell. Let's get started with today's lesson, shall we? Ugh. Yay, distance learning. Okay, here we go. Today's focus question is going to be about South Africa. Why is it considered to be the most unequal country in the world? But before we get into today's lesson, I have a few announcements for you. Starting with homework. Your news stories are due tomorrow. Due April 1st, that's tomorrow. Yeah, so if you haven't shared it with me, make sure you do. If you haven't turned in that checklist, which I posted yesterday, make sure you do that. The Africa practice map, or the Africa map quiz for this week, keep practicing on it, okay? And I'm going to talk more about that in a couple minutes as part of my announcements. And finally, there is a new assignment that will be available in my Google Classroom, probably before I record this video and post it for the third time. Good times. Let's keep moving. Right here is a picture of me and Rory planning our lesson. My student teacher, Professor Rory. I would talk more about this, but I've already talked about it 3 times and keep losing the video, so I don't want to keep talking about it. Do I keep talking about that, though? I do. Okay, as far as map quizzes go, I don't want you to send me emails about your map quiz scores anymore because I'm getting inundated with emails. Additionally, some people are emailing me, some people are posting it on the Google Classroom in different places, some people are submitting the form. The good news is everyone's doing it. The bad news is that it's coming at me in a bunch of different formats, and that's hard for me to keep track of. So I want to streamline this process if we can. And that's not your fault, that's mine, because I'm still learning this. So from now on Monday, what I would like you to do is take your pre-quiz, and then on that form, virtual map quiz number 1, next week will be map quiz number 2, write down your initial score and submit it to me. And then I'll look at it, record it, and return it to you. Practice, 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 Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday. That's not the right order. And then on Friday, take the quiz for a final time, fill out the Google form again, send it to me. I will record your score. That's how we're going to do this. No more emailing it to me. No more posting it on different places in the Google Classroom. We're going to just try to use that. I think within the next couple of weeks, we'll have this streamlined and it'll be working well, hopefully. If you're confused about that, email me. No, seriously, email me if you're confused about that. Tomorrow would normally be Project Pet Share Day, and when I was outside today fixing my my yard, my social distance safari, I decided that instead of Project Pet Share, which has kind of gone by the wayside, and then we tried to do Project Plant Share. I don't know if you remember that. Lauren, thank you. Laurel, thank you. Everyone else, whatever. And that didn't work out so well. So this is what we're going to do. How are you spending your quarantine? Get it? Quarantine, not quarantine. Anyway, I'm trademarking that. That's super funny and you miss me. So what you're going to do is, and I'll turn this into a Google Doc. The idea just popped into my head this morning when I was making sure that my quarantine pig didn't fall over. So what I would like you to do is send me a picture and a description of what you've been doing during the quarantine to keep yourself busy. And this is voluntary, by the way. And I'll randomly choose people and I will feature them as part of my video lessons on Wednesday starting next week. Again, I'll turn that into a Google Doc, so don't worry. South Africa, here we go. Did I mention this is the 3rd time I'm doing this lesson because the video doesn't work? It's fun. It's fun. I'm having fun. Social distance learning is awesome. Okay, so today we're going to be focused on South Africa. There's South Africa's flag, and there's a picture of where South Africa is. It's in the southern part of Africa. Who would have thought to look there? South Africa, rewind, the United States, oh man, okay, here we go, sorry. In the United States, Race is a really important issue. And we spent a lot of time studying race way back in the fall. We watched that doll test movie. I don't know if you remember that, from way back in the 50s. And then we looked at what the doll test is like in the 2000s. And so we know that race is an important issue in the United States. But it may surprise you to learn that race is also an important issue in South Africa. In the United States, we have like seven different categories of race that the government has created, and everyone must fill out their census form and identify as one of those races. In South Africa, they have the same thing, but they only have four categories that you have to choose from, which are white, black, mixed race, and Asian/Indian. Those are the four choices you get to make. South Africa is the 24th most populated country in the world. They have like roughly 59 million people living there right now. And here is a breakdown of what that country's population looks like by race. So in South Africa, of those 59 million people, roughly 4.6 million of them are white, 7.9% of the total population. 47.4 million of the people of South Africa identify as black or black African. That's 80.7% of the population. About 5.1 million South Africans identify as being of mixed race, 8.8% of the population. And the smallest portion of their population identify as Asian or Indian, only 2.6% or 1.5 million people. South Africa is a relatively big country. It's not the biggest country in Africa, but you know, it's no Lesotho. It's much bigger than that. It's much bigger than like Tunisia or Malawi or any of those island nations. And roughly 80% of the land in South Africa is used for agricultural purposes. You learned last year in 6th grade, thanks to Bob and that dog biscuit company that he ran, the agriculture refers to raising crops and livestock. So the remainder of the land in South Africa, outside of that 80%, is either cities or it's used for mining natural resources. Of the farmland in South Africa, 67% is white owned. 14% is owned by people who identify as black or of mixed race. 5% is owned by Asians, and 14% is owned by the government. And if you compare these percentages with the ones that I just showed you here, you should notice some interesting differences in terms of proportionality, and we'll be exploring those differences, or you will be, through the Google Doc, the assignment that I'm going to give you today. South Africa is a wealthy country in terms of Africa. It is the second wealthiest country in Africa, right behind Nigeria. But despite the fact that it's really wealthy thanks to its mineral resources and its location, there's a lot of economic inequality. There's an enormous amount of poverty in South Africa, despite the fact that it has such a large economy. 55.5% of the people living in South Africa are living in poverty, and that's defined as living on less than $83 a month to cover all of your expenses, your house, your food, your transportation, your clothing, your medical supplies, $83 a month or less. That means roughly 32 million people living in South Africa are living in poverty, are living in those standards. And that's in the year 2020, that's today. So the table below shows a breakdown of the percentage of poor people. Of those 32 million people living in poverty, 64.2% of them are black. 41.3% of them are of mixed race, 5.9% of them are Asian, and only 1% of them are white. Again, some food for thought. Unemployment. Unemployment refers to a situation where you don't have a job, where you can't find work, even though you're able-bodied. And South Africa has a really high unemployment rate, 27%. The United States, before the pandemic, we were at like 4%. So you can see that's a really high unemployment rate. And this is a breakdown of who's unemployed by race. Of all of those unemployed people, 8.9% of them are white, 40.9% of them are black, 28% of them are mixed race, and 16.6% of them are Asian. When I was doing my research for this lesson, I kept coming across a headline over and over and over again. And that headline was, you can see it right here, South Africa is the world's most unequal country. I saw this on NPR, I saw this on CNN, I saw this on the Associated Press, and this was the result of a study done by the World Bank Organization. Your task today is to open up the Google Doc that is in the classwork section and answer questions about those tables. And then at the end, what I want you to do is examine this headline, South Africa is the world's most unequal country. And I want you to see if the tables that we examined today support that headline, or do they refute it? Do they prove it wrong? And then I want you to write an answer to that in which you use some evidence to support your claim. Now, all of the instructions that I just gave you can be found on that Google Doc. And of course, if anything at all for that assignment is confusing, you can always shoot me an email and I will answer that question or any questions you have for you. I am hoping, beyond hope, that this video works, because I don't know if I could do this a fourth time. Seriously, I don't know that I could do this a fourth time. So anyway, let's get rid of that. Let's look at ET for a second, because look, there's ET. That's right. Oh, that's not really good. Anyway, I think I'm going a little crazy because I've made this video so often. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to try to make this video work. I really hope it happens for me. This technology stuff is stressful, but I'm going to get through it, and so are you. So we